Yo, we're here. What's going on, Lucas?
What's going on? What's
I
going on,
guess.
people of the world? You just pointed to the sign. So
Yeah.
we are here to bring you all, our wonderful JVS family, our review of, spoiler-free, by the way, spoiler-free review of the second worst spiral movie of 2021. Starring, this is Chris Rock, Samuel Jackson. That's about it. It's big names. This is supposed to be the reboot of the Saw franchise. This was announced, I want to say, in 2019 that Chris Rock was going to be. I think he's also an executive producer on this project.
Yep.
And he was going to lead the charge to redo the Saw franchise. And here we are with the movie that he chose to go with for his reboot of the Saw franchise. So, Sam, give us a quick synopsis so we could jump directly into this movie.
Oh, goodness. Yeah, no problem. Let's do it. A criminal mastermind unleashes a twisted form of justice in Spiral, the terrifying new chapter from the Book of Saw. Now, this was directed by Darren Lynn Bousman. He did direct Saw 2 as well as Repo Man. And I think that's about it. And yeah, so Chris Rock, I can't believe personally that he would go down that road from an acting standpoint.
I would say I cannot believe that we are at the point where this is the 9th Saw movie. For people who remember the first Saw movie and how that hit, especially the shocking ending that caught everyone off guard, there's no way I would have thought we would be at 8 sequels later at this point. This is almost more than what Nightmare on Elm Street has done in 30 years. Halloween has done in 30 to 40 years. Saw has managed to pull off, and I want to say maybe 15 years, definitely within 20.
Yeah.
Definitely within 20 years, they managed to pull off all of these amount of movies. Again, I think it's shocking to see Chris Rock in this role, but I understood why he did it. And that's the weird part with this entire film with Spiral. We kind of understand where this film's going. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, we are disappointed turn after turn after turn after turn, because this is a film that doesn't know what it wants to be.
Yeah.
Its initial description was Chris Rock wanted to take a comedic horror take on this type of film. And you did not know that, Sam. Oh, okay. Yes. Chris Rock initially, when he took on Spiral, said he wanted to interject humor into this and try to get a hybrid of sorts. Now, horror comedies have existed for years, and normally they go extremely silly with it, kind of a la Freaky with Vince Vaughn and things of that nature, where the comedic elements are played so over the top, it makes it a campy horror movie. Well, the goal with this one was to have those same comedic elements, except for with Chris Rock's deadpan type of humor, and attach it to a horror thriller. I'm not going to say it worked, but I want to know what Sam thinks. Sam, first opinions of this movie. First quick reactions of Spiral.
So just to give context, I haven't seen a Saw movie in years, and I didn't see Jigsaw, so I decided I wanted to look at Jigsaw ahead of time because I didn't know any of the backdrop of what foundationally Saw was supposed. I'm sorry, Spiral was supposed to be.
Yes.
And so, when I looked at Jigsaw, I was like, oh, okay, Jigsaw ended, spoiler alert, with basically a brand new incarnation of what Jigsaw represents, and it started off. I was like, oh, that's an interesting twist. I was like, oh, okay. You know what? Like, if this is where this is going, it said the Book of Saw. And I was like, okay, this is going to lead into this person's legacy birthed into something new. And it's just like, you got cops interjected into this. And so I was like, they never took in the cop approach of this. And so I was like, okay, the premise on the back end sounds interesting. Man, I started looking at this movie. And not only was it unbelievably predictable, every single thing that was happening was unbelievably predictable. it was acted so badly. And I'm glad you told me, Lucas, that what Chris Rock was trying to do with this, because I was like, Chris, listen to me, dog. You can act better than that. Like, I'm not saying you're a good actor. I'm not saying you're a perfect actor, but I'm saying that the way he was acting, Lucas, I was like, this is just disgraceful. Like, I ain't never said something like this, but it was so bad that I was like, what is he doing? And who is directing him to do this? And so honestly, the first 20 minutes, it took me out the movie. The only thing good that I can say, and I'll go ahead and just fast track this, is there is a situation that happens that's so inventive with glass and a turbine that I was like, yo, that's actually a really inventive way. Like, I was like, and one of the things about the Saw franchise that always intrigued me was how they kill people. Not necessarily people are always stupid.
Yes.
People in this were unbelievably stupid.
Well, it's a Saw movie.
Predictable.
It's a Saw movie. Everyone's stupid in a Saw movie.
But it was kind of like you got creative ways of people dying.
Mm-hmm.
And outside of that one, there is no other really creative ways. And then it was just like, I just really didn't enjoy it, man. Not that it was a chore to get through, but I was kind of like finding myself, I was like, Chris Rock is not acting well. The only character that I'm actually intrigued by is I forgot his name. I want to make sure I get his name right because he's in The Handmaid's Tale. Max Minghella.
Is that the one who plays Christopher?
William. Is it Christopher or is it William?
I don't know. Was his son Christopher? Was he Christopher? You're talking about that guy, right? I'm assuming.
Yeah.
The partner.
Yeah, his partner.
Okay.
I was intrigued by him because I was like, he's the only one that ain't sitting there acting like this is a comedy. I was like, he's just playing the role that he's given. I was like, okay, cool. Like, you know what? Even if he dies or not, like, I was like, okay, let's see where this character is really going. And I was intrigued by him. Aside from that, I was like, bro, like, I didn't even like Samuel Jackson's character. I was kind of just like Samuel.
Sam was just playing himself.
Yeah. But I didn't even really like him. But I didn't like him. It was like it wasn't anything for me to actually connect with, to me to like him. Like, it was like, sometimes like it may be his charisma, sometimes it may be like, his brushness or like
these faces they make Chris Rock making this movie of so
bro, that's what I'm saying, bro.
It looks like he just has to poop. He's trying to look serious.
So I'm gonna say this. In the very first teaser that they did for this, right? I thought to myself, this is a parody. I was like, Chris Rock is doing a parody. This is a parody comedy on Saw. But then it was like, no, like, this is an actual thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay. So this is, but I feel like throughout this film, I was like, his face and his mannerisms and the way he was acting stuff. Now, I'll say this. He has some funny moments. Like, there's some funny lines that he delivers that were completely improv that had nothing to do with the script.
There's some Chris Rock lines he delivers.
But
yeah.
I don't like dissing a film. I don't take a lot of enjoyment out of it. But I told Lucas, I was like, I got to join in this one. Because I'm hoping that Lucas can pull something from this that I can connect with. The only one thing that Lucas got me on this was the perspective that they initially were trying to do with this. I did know that they went and reshot this a couple different times. This went through a blender in and of its own self. What's the backdrop on this? Like the inception of this, where it started from where it is now. Like, how many times did this get recut? And
I don't know.
And flopped?
I actually don't know how many times it got recut. I know that it got rewritten so many times before it got to the point of being made into a film. Again, from initially, all I remember is Chris Rock has been brought on to really oversee the next Saw installment. And this was right after Jigsaw came out. Jigsaw did not get good critical reaction, but it got solid audience reaction.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, Spire was going to kind of reboot Saw all over again. and this movie fails. That's to be in all honesty, there's nothing positive to pull from this movie. This is exactly what I was expecting, though. This is a knife entry of Saw. Like, at this point, the series is what it is. I'm not going into a Saw series expecting good acting. I'm not going into a Saw series expecting anything. Creative deaths. That's all you go into Saw with at this point. Is the thought of having creative deaths. Now, Sam pointed out to one with a turbine and a glass. That was interesting. The first death to me was extremely interesting. The options given here. But I think where this film falters is the Jigsaw formula.
Yes, I agree.
want to play a game, and unfortunately, the original voice of the man who voiced the I want to play a game is so iconic in horror that when you get the voice here say it literally sounds like a little kid saying I want to play a game.
That's exactly what it sounds
and you
like.
never take him seriously, and that's kind of the issue with this film. None of the characters are really in depth enough to care about them.
None.
Chris Rock's character has a very interesting backstory, but they go so surface with it. It ruins everything humanly possible with this character because it's too surface. They don't dig deeper into the logic behind this character, the heart behind this character. It's a great movie wrapped up in this mess of a film.
Yeah.
It's really good characters wrapped up in this mess of a film. The problem is the finished product highlights one cop who's kind of good and everyone else is bad.
Yeah.
And in the end, when you have someone punishing people for being bad in a film and majority of the people are bad in the film, why would you care about anything that happens to the people? And that's the problem. That's the separation from this and past Saw films. Yeah. Even on characters that you kind of didn't know much about, you kind of cared about them because they all weren't evil people. Sometimes just circumstances put them in this situation. In this one, in 2021, all of these are bad cops. Guess what most people want them to do? They want them to die. Like you literally made a film with no real reason for the villain to be vilified.
Yeah, and I want to comment on something that I'm going to try to say this carefully. In most of the Saw films, it feels like an actual game. Yes, people, either one lose something, maybe a limb or sacrifice somebody else or whatever, but it feels like there's an actual choice and it feels like an actual game. This film did not feel like a game. Like, it felt like something else that I can't really say, but it was kind of like for every single situation or every single like torture situation, I didn't see a resolve to it. I really didn't. And nor did the people involved in them or having these things happen to them. I was like, this don't even feel like a game. And you know what I'm trying to say without saying it? Like
it didn't feel in the prior Saw films when these people were kind of tortured, the end result of them, if they choose to escape something, made sense. It was like, okay, do I do this or do I maim myself or something of this nature? Every game this time literally would involve death instantly anyway. Yeah. Like it literally made no sense, especially again, the one with the turbine and the bottles. In all honesty, what was the point of that? There's no point of that besides to kill someone. And again, that's the problem that has happened with the Saw series as it's grown. The first one was so intimate. Yeah. It was two people. And the games made sense because, like, if you decide to get out of Jigsaw's puzzle, like, you can chop your arm off to do so. You're going to live, but you're going to lose a limb. Yeah. As the series went on, the games stopped taking time to develop and they just became flash scenes of stuff happening. And this movie is packed full of games supposedly that they make no sense. It's one particular game that involved sharp blade and wax, and you're like, that makes no sense. Like the option given to get out of it, no one would choose that option. And that's one thing about Jigsaw. He always gave you options that didn't kill you, but gave you a stark reminder of the bad things you've done. Here, it was just gore to be gore.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the other thing about it, when you were talking about like there may be like a sleeper good film there was a character, and I'm not gonna say who they are, that I kind of felt like, did they cut a whole bunch of this character's dialogue or story? Because I was like, there seems to be something more there. Like this character continuously was having these different flashes. The more and more like he started seeing what was happening, like it was almost like he was spiraling, and I was kind of just like, okay, I want to see where this goes. Like I was like, maybe this is something different. Like maybe this is the creation. Like maybe we haven't got to this thing yet. It's being created. And I was like, if this ends on that note, then I can forgive all the rest of it, because this is the only character that I can see that may have layers to them. And they said, and like you said, they're just like, whatever. It's just surface. It doesn't matter. And I don't know if I believe that. I feel like they cut that out.
Even the detective story of it is surface level. It's a bad episode of like NCIS.
Yeah.
With the detective stuff here. It made no sense. Chris Rock does not play a cop in a believable way at all. When he's supposed to be mad, it looks like he's pooping. When he's supposed to be like in anguish, it just looks silly. Like he cannot pull off any element of this film. Him or the actress who plays the captain.
Oh my gosh.
She is so unbelievable in this movie. It is pitiful.
Like, so she the only thing I know her from is Riverdale. That's the only thing I know her from.
Like for a film to have two well-known Hollywood actors in it, this feels like the world's worst straight to VOD type of movie.
Yeah.
And that's what's more shocking than anything else. And they completely waste Sam Jackson's character in this movie. Completely waste him. Jeez. And it's a very interesting story there. And if you would have focused on the father-son dynamic between Chris Rock and Samuel Jackson, you could have gotten a really good movie out of this. This is what I mean by this movie has so much potential, and it realizes none of it, and instead it falls in the direction of, and this may be a movie most people remember, Halloween Resurrection. As I'm watching this, that's all I was thinking of is, wow, enough people who are known, and you take a story with a myth that people really love, and boy, do you just ruin it. So this is what this reminded me of, and hopefully this is the last one before we get a true Saw reboot. They got to start from the beginning. All of this other stuff is not going to work anymore. This is a bad movie in any way, shape, form. This should not have been saved for theaters. They should have released this on somebody. They should have sold this movie and tried to get something out of it, because this is a bad movie, especially a bad movie. And I know we don't like to normally mention other movies, but I'm going to mention two. One, it's a movie that came out last year for Shudder named Spiral that constantly got confused with this one. The difference is that Spiral is a really good movie. This one is not. Another thing, it is another horror movie that drops in theaters this weekend with Spiral. Jinn, which is exponentially better than this movie. It's not even in the same ballpark, and both of them come out on Friday. Like, this is This is a bad movie. This should have went straight to someone. Shudder should have bought this movie for cents on the dollar.
Yeah.
Like, name alone, Chris Rock is not box office. Let's get that straight up front. He does not generate box office. He is a big name, though. This should have went to someone's VOD platform that could have pushed this a little better. In theaters, this movie should fall flat. Granted, it is a Saw movie, and some people are going to want to go see it because it's a Saw movie. This is not a good movie in any way, shape, form, or fashion. And it hurts the Saw franchise. I never would have thought after seeing Jigsaw, I would see a movie in this series that I thought was worse.
Yeah.
And that's what happens with Spiral.
Yeah. Yeah. I really do feel like if they would have just committed to say, all right, there's somebody else, Jigsaw is completely gone, and there's somebody else doing it a specific way. And, this person is targeting, the cops, which goes against, what Jigsaw's ideals and his perspective is.
Mm-hmm.
But why? Why would this person do this? I think you can write this and it make it sense. I think it could have worked, but it just doesn't in this film, unfortunately.
Welcome to the problem when you take away the big bad out of a film. No one wants to see Nightmare on Elm Street without Freddy Krueger. They tried to give you a Halloween at one point without Michael Myers. Halloween 3, Season of the Witch.
I remember.
No. This is why the series has to be rebooted from the beginning. You can't have a Saw film without Jigsaw. Let's in the notion now that you can do that. Saw and Jigsaw are hand to hand. You cannot have one without the other. So this needs to be the last time you attempt to make a Saw movie without Jigsaw.
But do you worry, and I'm going to say this respectfully, that after 9 films, do they just leave it alone? I mean it. I really do.
Halloween is on 13 now?
Halloween is on 13, but you remember Final Destination, right? Mm-hmm. And then they went through it, and then the last one I think came out was semi all right. But it's only but so many different ways, you get to see somebody get killed.
That's why you reboot a series completely. At this point, you have to put it in someone else's hands. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm always going to use Halloween for the example because so far Halloween has been the most successful in saying, okay, we're going to put this series in someone else's hands and see what happens. They did that with the first reboot of Halloween with Rob Zombie, and they let him take his take on it. And now we have the new old style reboot where they bring back the old characters, but with new people behind the helm of it. Saw needs to do the same thing at this point. Someone needs to come in and say, hey, I want to do this from this beginning. Let's take 3 to 4 years off from getting a Saw movie and start it all over again with someone else who gets behind the camera and decides, hey, let's reboot it. Let's take it back to the original origins of what made this movie, this series. And that is the intimate, cheap settings. Is it James Wan or my other guy who does, or Lynn? Which one of them started? I think it's James Wan.
James Wan
started Saw.
Yep,
so you know what you need to do? You need to take it back to those type of origins that he came from, which was a micro-budgeted style thrilling horror movie. Take all the extra Hollywood bloat out of these movies and take it back to character actors going through these little things and bring back Jigsaw. That's the only way this series can survive at this point. Again, we've seen reboots. I saw a beautiful reboot of Wrong Turn this year, and that was the 8th Wrong Turn film. The 8th one, and yet they managed to turn it around with 8 by rebooting it from the beginning. That's what Saw needs to do at this point.
Yeah. Would you say that Eli Roth would be a good?
No.
Okay.
Did I say that fast enough? No. You need. Matter of fact, hey, Saw people, I know of 2 amazing film directors who you should give this project to. I knew 2 amazing film directors who you could give this project to. and say, hey, do what you want with this series. And I'm 1,000% sure they would knock this out the park. This is what you need. You need fresh blood in this series. Don't go for any established names. Established names have gotten you Spiral. We need to not go down this route ever again. Get 2 up-and-coming people, give them the power to say, hey, put together a trilogy, because we don't need 9 other films. Put together a trilogy, and let's see what happens. Cut the budgets down between 5 to 10 million. Go back to the Blumhouse effect with these films. 5 to 8 million, not even 10. $5 to $8 million budget on these films. Nothing more. You don't need to do these over-the-top kills. I'd be god darn if practical effects would work so much better than these effects that we're getting in this movie.
They do. I actually really appreciate the practical effects, but
so let's see what you do. Again, there are 2 very talented filmmakers, Lionsgate, that you should be reaching out to right now and say, hey, would you 2 like to write and direct a Saw franchise for us? And see what happens.
Yeah,
I mean, you got about a year before they become too big to care about you. That's all I'm gonna say. You got like a year. A year. But by the end of 2021, you probably won't be able to afford them. How about you reach out to them now and hope that you can lock them into something? Because man, if we're gonna get another Spiral, the Saw franchise will die. And please believe, horror movie series are hard to kill. But boy, you can kill one when you put Chris Rock in it. That's all I'm going to say.
It's not a good film, you guys. Unfortunately, it's a dud for me. I'm gonna give this one a 2 out of 10. I haven't given anything this low in a very long time, and that's me really kind of being generous. Because again, I think the concept is something that could have worked and is interesting. The characters, I think that the silhouette of them is interesting, but there's nothing really there. And then the execution is just horrible. Acting by Chris Rock probably is the worst I've ever seen him. But then, to be fair, that could have been because of the way they tried to design the film. But this is a 2 out of 10 for me.
I am giving Saw, Spiral, Book of Saw, Chapter 9, a 0 out of 10.
Oh!
This has to be the worst movie I've seen so far in 2021. And I've seen lots of movies in 2021. And this is the worst one. This is a bad movie. And it does not. I disagree with Sam on one thing. This film is a torture to get through. I fell asleep 3 times trying to get through this movie. This movie is a bore on a level that should not exist. I haven't seen a performance as bad as Chris Rock is in this movie in a pretty long period of time. Like, he is so bad in this movie. And I know Chris Rock can act. And I know he can act extremely well. This is puzzling that he would even do this project. Yeah. So 0 out of 10 for Spiral, Book of Saw.
Wow. I don't have any other words on that. We're going to leave that there with you guys. Let us know in the comment section below. Did you enjoy Spiral? Did you not? Are you hesitant about going? Please definitely, choose on your own fruition if you want to go and see it. But do know our personal perspective is just our personal perspective on this film. Now, again, as a recommendation, there is another film called The Djinn that we have watched, that we have reviewed, that we have interviewed 2 interesting directors, and we'd highly recommend you go and check that out.
Yes, definitely this weekend.
Right now.
Not only that, again, if you want to see a movie named Spiral on Shudder, it is a movie named Spiral that is 10 times better than this film. Check that one out. If you just have to see something named Spiral, check that one out instead. If you want to actually see a good horror movie, a really, really good, damn near, in fact, great horror movie, Djinn, out on the same day. Trust me. If you're a horror movie person and you don't believe me, watch both. I guarantee you're going to enjoy Djinn a heck of a lot more than you could Spiral, Book of Saw. But there you go. That's the other Spiral right there on Shudder It is 10 times better than this one.
That was hurt. That hurt me, man. I don't like doing this. I don't like going and talking. Anyway, we're gonna go. Hope you guys enjoyed this review. We'll talk to you guys a bit later on. We'll be back. I think I might want Lucas to do a spoiler review with me with a certain movie, with the person in a window. We'll talk about it later, though. All right, guys. Peace.